As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. Friends, family, and many from outside Cache Valley are rallying behind a Cornish family after a haystack fire at their farm caused thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. The fire was reported at 6 o'clock Saturday night at the Creech Dairy Farm. Flames broke out inside a barn and quickly engulfed over 650 tons of hay. Firefighters from throughout the northern end of the valley and Franklin County responded to the fire. As they arrived, flames had already completely engulfed the hay barn. The blaze then spread to another nearby barn, burning straw, equipment, and cattle feed. The fire destroyed both structures. The initial estimate of damage exceeds $350,000. The Creech Farm has more than 300 cattle, including 110 milking cows. With all of the hay and feed destroyed in the blaze, the family is trying to figure out how to keep their herds fed until crops can be harvested again next summer. In a video message on social media, Colton Creech said that since Saturday, neighbors and other farmers have showed up to help clean up or donate hay. The devastating fire comes in the midst of a hay shortage, with feed prices tripled because of the drought. A GoFundMe account was created to help the family farm. It has already collected more than $43,000. Donations can also be made at any Alta Bank branch in the name of the Joe Creech family. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies with some haze, overnight low in the upper 20s, partly cloudy in the morning, then becoming mostly sunny with continuing haze from the high pressure that's just kind of sitting on top of us, high around 50 tomorrow. Correction, it actually has been to 55 this afternoon. It's cooled off as the sun is setting. It's 47 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Maple Creek Ranch, featuring breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available. Visit maplecreekranch.net. That's maplecreekranch.net.
The family's coming home for the holidays, and you'll need sofas to sit on, beds to sleep in, and tables to eat at. Upgrade your furniture for less than you think at UNI Furniture. Their number one selling mattress is a Therapeutic Queen mattress for $399. An upgrade to a Maloof for only $599. Take home a good deal on an American-made sofa love or a recliner from Franklin, Southern Motion, Broyhill, and Lane. And their most popular dining set seats 6 with 4 chairs and a bench for $899. Get your home holiday ready at the place where there's always a better buy. UNI Furniture, 28 West 1st North, downtown Logan.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. North Logan recently made history when it elected its first woman mayor. On KVNU's For the People program on Wednesday, Mayor-elect Lindsay Peterson said as she talked to residents, the focus for her campaign quickly became clear.
I think that it was pretty easy to find a direction for the campaign just because in talking to different citizens, the same issues kept coming up over and over. Growth was the primary one, and a lot of the ancillary issues to growth, like water and infrastructure and housing, those all kind of fell into that broader category of just growth. I think that's what's on everyone's minds, and so that's something that I talked about over and over on the campaign trail.
Now, North Logan was one of 5 cities in Utah that for the first time elected a woman mayor. Peterson said this is a pretty big change for some cities.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that 2 things have to come about. One, a woman has to choose to run. And then I think also people have to be open to having a female leader. And I think those aren't givens, right?
Sure.
I've encountered some people on the campaign trail that are just an absolute no for a female mayor. But fortunately, I think that's the minority, obviously, right, when you consider the voting.
Right?
Before the election, Peterson was endorsed by 3 former and 1 current mayors. They were John Bailey, Al Moser, and current mayor Damon Ken, who chose not to run for re-election. And an Idaho State police trooper received his holiday miracle a bit early Wednesday after nearly being missed by a pickup truck while assisting another driver. Video released by police starts by showing the trooper helping to fix a flat tire at about 9:45 a.m. on I-84 near Boise. But in a matter of seconds, the trooper looks over and narrowly misses being hit by a truck that slams into the vehicle he was assisting. The driver of the car with flat tire was also able to get out of the way while the trooper tumbled over the median divider. Police said the driver of the pickup truck slowed down when approaching the trooper but was hit by another vehicle, which caused a chain reaction. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
News Talk KVNU.
At Winco, we're working to save you money. Big savings on top quality meat, produce, seafood, and deli. Bakery fresh breads, cakes, and cookies made daily in store. Low prices on top quality national brands and thousands of our own private label. In every aisle, every department, every day.
Now open in Logan at 1341 North Main Street.
Over 2.8 million Americans have served in our military since 9/11. Many have returned home with devastating injuries and few resources for them and their families. This is news correspondent Bob Woodruff. I sustained a life-threatening injury while reporting from Iraq in 2006. The military had my back that day, and they have each other's while serving. It's time we had theirs. Please join us as part of the Got Your Six initiative. To learn more, go to gotyoursix.org using the number 6.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. It is still Thursday, December 2nd. Still can't believe it's December already. I'll stop whining about that now.
Doesn't look like December.
Not yet.
Outside.
Definitely not yet. Oh, man, what an exciting day and packed show we have lined up for everybody into the end of the week. So we'll be speaking this hour with United States Senate candidate, a Republican running in what was sure to be a primary against current United States Senator Mike Lee. Becky Edwards will be joining us at the back half of this hour. To kick things off here, though, we have a good friend of the show, a very special guest, and one of the founders of something known as USU's Utah Women in Leadership Project. The Utah Women in Leadership Project has put out some of the most amazing research reports and white papers over the last, going on a couple of years now, and it's really caught some attention. It's got lawmakers talking. It has people in the communities and schools talking, and they have covered everything from the effect the pandemic had on women in the workforce to how women are treated by the media, which I tell you was eye-opening for all of us here at the KVNU newsroom and elsewhere throughout the state. Just some amazing stuff and things that normally we don't get a lot of exposure to, sadly. They have a new white paper. This was published just today, and the white paper playing off of a known and unfortunate label that Utah gets. Utah has been ranked too often as one of the worst states for women's equality, especially when it comes to the wage gap here in Utah, but a lot of other ways as well. Utah lawmakers have acknowledged this and said that things need to be done. In this new white paper, the Utah Women in Leadership Project at Utah State University's Huntsman School of Business, they say, here's why Utah keeps getting that ranking, and this is what's so great about it, they say, here's what can be done about this. Joining us right now, the inaugural Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership at the John M. Huntsman School of Business, and again, one of the founders of USU's Utah Women in Leadership Project, Dr. Susan Madsen, joining us. And Dr. Madsen, appreciate you taking some time for us. We haven't spoken for quite some time, and I should point this out. This latest report is just one of many that you guys have had out over the last couple of months. We haven't been able to touch on all of them here on the show, but you folks are busy.
Yeah, we are. We've got lots of reports coming out. We just had one last month. Well, a couple came out last month on a new series we're starting on. We collected from almost 100 women sexist comments.
Oh, wow,
and,
really?
And the responses. So we have a 5-part series that we've just done the first and so forth. This was a really special report because Scott Anderson, who is the CEO of Zions Bank, actually connected with me in September. So the ranking came out at the end of August that again ranked Utah as 50th, the state of Utah 50th in the nation in terms of women's equality. Scott connected with me in September and said, we need to really understand. It's not great that Utah keeps getting this ranking.
Sure.
I mean, that doesn't look good for us. People will continue to think that Utah's a very bad place for women. Can Zions Bank commission us to do a report and really look deeper? So my whole team and independent contractors and everybody was all busy. So I happened to mention it to my husband and said, if I just need someone that knows how to do numbers well, that can go back to the data. And he, 2 weeks before, had just finished a PhD. And he said, actually, I'll jump in. And so he was the perfect one to help jump in. And we had about 6 weeks. So this is a really thorough report. But what we did was really go back to the original sources in every case that we could. The online reports don't give you much from Wallet Hub. They were helpful in pointing us in certain directions. But we went back and actually did a full analysis from original sources, whether it was the census, data, whether it was data from, the National Women's Law Center or, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We went back and got the data from the sources and reran to just say, are they right in the first place? And guess what? They actually, our scores were about equal to what they were. And
really?
So overall, there's 100 points possible. And Utah was 50th at 29.85. And the next state, even closest, was Idaho at 37. So that's,
wow.
What is that, 80, or 8 points more, around 8 points up. And then the top state for women's equality was Nevada at 77 points. So Utah comes in at 29, like I said. So, so we really went to town and there's 17 indicators in 3 main buckets.
Wow.
And we went back and analyzed every single one to really find out what's going on. And you have to understand what's going on in terms of the rankings and the sources to then point to what are the possible potential solutions.
That's what made this white paper so interesting to me because oftentimes when it comes to analytics, to research that's trying to understand a problem, it's easy. Not easy, but eventually it's almost always possible to say, here's what's causing the problem. But to then be able to extrapolate from that and say, here are some things that might help the problem.
Yeah.
And we should back up a little bit as well, Dr. Madsen, because I think this is important that this was commissioned by Scott Anderson and Zions Bank because, or why would be important. I would guess that one of the big concerns an organization, a business like Zions Bank has is that this ranking could have a detrimental effect on business in Utah, right?
Absolutely. I mean, just expanding businesses, but attracting talent to Utah, attracting new businesses to Utah, which impacts banks and different things. The great thing about Zions Bank is they really are concerned about their themselves, but they really engage in the community as well. And in fact, another report that came out, they commissioned earlier with the Chem C. Gardner Institute at the University of Utah. I don't know if you paid attention or can remember, but they launched a report, I believe it was just earlier this year, really doing some analysis of gender, race, and ethnicity and what it looks like in Utah, specifically around housing and all kinds of areas. So I really appreciate Scott and the vision that he and other leaders at Science had to say, wait, this does impact us, but it impacts so many things. And this report, yes, it is about the rankings on the one hand. We don't like to have everybody say, oh, yeah, Utah's the bottom of the rankings. We don't want to start our business in Utah, or people being scared about going to Utah. You don't like that.
Sure.
But there's also a deeper, I mean, those are just kind of, that ranking is kind of a proxy for women's lived experiences too. And so it's not just looking good on paper. It really is this a place in our workplaces and in political settings and different things that girls and women can thrive in, to really love being here, be able to contribute in ways. And what we know is that I love being a woman. I love living in Utah, but there are things that we can do better, and especially in terms of women, lifting women and empowering women.
Sure.
So I do think it's interesting. I appreciate them, moving us along to do this report, because I think it is interesting.
Well, and it's a fascinating report. And again, for listeners, you can download this report and read it yourself via the link on our Facebook page, or, and you should do this anyway, visit USU's Utah Women in Leadership Project's website. I've linked to that on our Facebook page. You can basically find them everywhere, social media and online, just by searching the Utah Women in Leadership Project. They are Utah Women on Twitter, or excuse me, UT Women Leaders on Twitter, and all of their past research linked there as well. You can find them on Facebook. It's fascinating stuff all around. And again, as I mentioned, Dr. Madsen, your recent report on how women who are candidates are treated and spoken to by the media. I have to point this out to bring all this home before we get back to today's white paper. Yesterday on the show, we had Mayor-elect of North Logan City, Lindsay Peterson, on the show. And I'm so conscious of this report you guys did back in the summer now that I'm going through, and Mayor-elect Peterson and I laughed about this a bit in the hallway. I did a couple of the things that it's so ingrained into us. That me sitting here, it does not stand out to me that I'm about to that I did in the end ask a question of a woman in elected office that I would not ask a man. And so afterwards, Mayor-elect Peterson and I were talking about that, and of course she said, I'm used to it, but it really does highlight how ingrained some of this is, how structural it is, and that gets us to sort of where these recommendations come from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there were 17 key indicators from different sources in 3 chunks. Now, again, I want to say one thing I haven't said, and Wallet Hub has the rankings for women's equality, and they also have another set of rankings for just best and worst states for women. So overall, we rank bottom on equality. For women in general, we rank 28th. There's different indicators, but the equality is really what sticks out. So the 3 main chunks of indicators, the first one is workplace environment, and at 100 points total. So each of the indicators has different point values, so they're weighted differently. So workplace environment's 1, 40 points. The second, education and health, only 3 indicators in that with 40 points. So each of them have 13 plus points. Those are really big ones. And then the last section, 20 points, and there's 4 categories, and they're all around political empowerment. And in fact, so the combination of workplace environment, education and health, political empowerment make up this equality scale. And so we went through each of those chunks, the different weighted, to come up with what's going on in Utah. And then and then we figured out, so if we did this thing, how many points would it be on the Wallet Hub? How many would it kick us up? Because we need to kick up like 8 points to even just get past Idaho, right?
Sure.
So,
sure.
And what was, I'll just say, one of the ones that was surprising really was that whole chunk on political empowerment. And basically, if we, one of the items is the disparity in the share of lawmakers in the U.S. Senate. So we recommend elect one of our 2 seats to be a woman, and that in and of itself would kick us up 5 points on the Wallet Hub scale.
Interesting.
And then 4 seats from Utah in the U.S. House of Representatives, and so elect 2 women. And that would kick us up another 5 points. Just those 2 would get us so we're not like out there as last place.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the other 2 we've got some points for getting more. We recommend a minimum of 7 women in the state legislature, 4 in the Utah Senate, and 3 in the House. And then the last one is the statewide or the state elected executives. So we have 5 in Utah: the governor, lieutenant governor, the treasurer, auditor, and attorney. And right now, we didn't used to have a woman in there, but now we have for Lieutenant Governor Henderson.
Sure.
But we recommend 1 more, and that'll give us a couple more points. So, again, it's not all about the points, but it's interesting to kind of look at that.
Just
so
as a way to understand this, right?
Yeah,
okay.
As a way to understand, yeah.
It's interesting to me because I have to assume with something like, should Utah in the near future elect, it's one of the recommendations that would bump us up in this score, if 2 women were elected to, if 1 woman was elected to one of the 2 United States Senate seats, that would have a 2-pronged positivity, right? It would have the representation aspect there, especially for young women to say, oh, I could go there if I wanted to. But then also you have women contributing to the public policy making process, right?
Yeah, and there's more than that. The more that I've studied through these years, the impact of women in elected office, whether it's the city council up to Congress, right? It changes the conversations. The representation. 2 men in the U.S. Senate does not represent Utah. The thinking, men and women, you need men and women together to represent Utah and the decisions. Well, let me just give you one example. There's research out there on state legislatures. The states who have more women in their state legislatures allocate money differently than states like Utah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. The states with more women, more funding is towards top things that women tend to care about more than men. Men can care about them, but they're the top on women's lists. And number 1 is K through 12 education. Number 2 is health care and mental health, all of those things for their families. And then societal issues. So states like Utah that don't have that very many women, we have less funding that go to things like homelessness and poverty and resources for sexual assault victims and resources and help for people that have been in domestic violence situations. We just don't do so well with those, but states that have more women, those things rise to the top. The decisions are different when you have all men versus a combination of men and women. So it's actually critical for policy, like you said, to be examples. But when you get women into those key conversations, other things happen. The wage gap would be taken more seriously in Utah. All the rest of the indicators, maybe not everyone, but probably would be, there's one on poverty. There would be movement more on poverty with women in the Senate or House of Representatives. We have a couple of other indicators. We get dinged down in Utah on one about the disparity of doctor visit, the perceptions of doctor visit affordability. In Utah, we have quite a gap between men and women who women are significantly more worried, even more than women in other states about the affordability. They don't go to the doctor or take their kids sometimes because they're nervous about the affordability.
The cost. That's fascinating to think of it getting this specific. And speaking of in this white paper, your research got so specific as to be able to say in the white paper report published today that if 8th grade math scores for young girls improved by 1 point, something the state could obviously make a focus in one way or another. If 8th grade math scores improved by 1 point for young women, that would bump us up in this ranking quite a bit. That's how specific you guys got. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah, the math scores, 8th grade math scores in Utah, girls scored 2 points on the assessment exam that's given more than, boys. And what's interesting is when you look at the research, there are countries where there's no difference between boys and girls math scores. Many in the United States, there are differences, but Utah has, we rank 43rd on that. So we're not doing so good. We have a wider gap between math scores of boys and girls, and it's not because we have girls that are not smart in math. That's not it. It's because I believe it's because we have more socialization in terms of girls are not good at math. Boys are better at this. Let's have girls do this. Boys do this. Does that make sense?
That makes
sense.
sense.
Girls should major in these kinds of more feminine things. Boys. So there's research that shows, many, many studies, that when women, let's say college students, are reminded that maybe girls don't do as well as math, or they're told, I should say, that girls don't do as well in math as boys. There's been control groups and then groups that are told that immediately, right after they're told, they do worse. Just because they're told they're going to do worse, they do worse.
So it actually has an effect on that. That is both fascinating and frightening at the same time. That Dr. Susan Madsen, this is the work you guys are doing is so eye-opening. All of you up there at the Utah Women in Leadership Project and in the broader capacity of the John M. Huntsman School of Business, taking a look at all of this and helping us to understand how much plays a part in some of these disparities here in Utah. But also, I think this white paper kind of stresses how easy it would be to actually change things quite a bit. For listeners, please check it out. You can download the white paper and all previous research, which I recommend you do, at the USU Utah Women and Leadership Project's website, which is utwomen.org. On the social media channels, you can find them at UT Women Leaders, both on Twitter and Facebook. I've linked to all of that on our own Facebook page. Check it out. This white paper published just today, titled, Why Utah is Ranked as the Worst State for Women's Equality and What Can Be Done. It's an eye-opening read, to say the least. And again, thank you to you, our guest, Dr. Susan Madsen of Utah State University Huntsman School of Business and the Utah Women and Leadership Project. Dr. Madsen, always a pleasure to have you here on the show. And I promise, if you're game, I'm game. We'll not make it so long before we speak again.
That sounds great. Always good to talk to you.
Oh, appreciate your time and more so appreciate the work that all of you are doing up there when it comes to this research. It will help. Fascinating stuff. Please, listeners, check it out. The website, again, utwomen.org. Our guest has been Dr. Susan Madsen, the inaugural Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership in the John M. Huntsman School of Business and one of the founders of the Utah Women in Leadership Project. I've linked to all of this on our Facebook page if you'd like to read the research yourself. Eye-opening stuff. We'll be back with more of For the People and speak with United States Senate candidate Becky Edwards, joining us after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:34. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. With 1,981 new cases of coronavirus included in the Utah Department of Health Thursday report, the state's total caseload has surpassed 600,000 since the pandemic started almost 21 months ago. Included in today's new cases are 134 new cases in northern Utah. UDOH reported no new COVID deaths today due to technical difficulties experienced yesterday with their reporting system. From the start of the pandemic, the lives of 3,545 Utahns have been lost to the virus, including 183 in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. Since the pandemic started, there have been 600,079 positive cases in Utah, 33,462 in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. More than 32,000 COVID patients in northern Utah are considered recovered. Since the outbreak began, 1,554 in the Bear River Health District have been hospitalized. Well, we're all paying much more for fuel, but investigators say thieves got loads of it for nothing. An affidavit for a search warrant in a diesel theft scheme outlines part of the still emerging case, said to reach into 4 counties, Salt Lake, Utah, Davis, and Weber. An investigator wrote that suspects would fill up a large external fuel tank via credit card fraud and then presumably sell that fuel to other people. KUTV reports a Top Stop gas station in Mill Creek was one business targeted. Planning and criminal ingenuity were apparently part of the thieves' repertoire. The affidavit stated a suspect used new credit card numbers each day. That same suspect was arrested in 2020 with 17 cloned credit cards, and that 2 suspects broke into the internals of the pump at the station and tampered with it. Unified Police Sergeant Melody Cutler said the tampering stopped the pump from calculating fuel dispensed and charges for it. The amount of diesel fuel stolen may be a drop in Utah's fuel pool, but thefts, especially if they reach well beyond the Mill Creek station, could not help pricing. So far, Cutler said one suspect has been arrested. He's identified as Jose Lache Ortega. A Salt Lake County jail spokesman says Lache Ortega was released the day after he was booked into the facility, and now the scope of the thefts may grow. And as many as 900 bison from Yellowstone National Park could be shot by hunters, sent to slaughter or placed in quarantine this winter in a program that seeks to prevent the animals from spreading a disease to cattle. Federal, tribal, and state officials agreed Wednesday that an additional 200 bison could be captured or hunted in late winter if conditions allow. Bison routinely leave Yellowstone and head north into Montana each winter, raising concerns that the animals could spread brucellosis to cattle. The Bozeman Daily Chronicle reports there are no documented cases of bison spreading brucellosis to livestock in the wild. Yellowstone currently has around 5,500 bison. KBNU News Time is 5:38.
How often should you change the filter on your furnace? A lot of people are surprised when they find out that most filters are only good for 60 to 90 days. Some cheaper filters won't even last that long. If you buy a good quality filter, you should still have it checked or replaced every year. Doing this will make sure your furnace runs more efficiently and keep the air that you breathe cleaner. For a free consultation, call the Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
KVNU weather, mostly clear, a bit hazy tonight, and overnight low in the upper 20s, and then partly cloudy Friday morning, becoming mostly sunny, and hazy conditions tomorrow, high around 50. Hazy, partly cloudy Saturday, around 50 for the high. It was 55 today. Right now it's 43 at KVNU. KBNU Weather is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Most of us don't think about our roofs until we see shingles on the ground or water drips through the ceiling. Keep your roof in tip-top shape by working with Roof Rescue. They'll take the time to assess, explain, and work out financial obligations with your insurance. Providing watertight peace of mind, Roof Rescue. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. have retirement questions about financial planning and investing, Medicare, estate planning, or complex tax strategies? Jessup Insurance can answer those questions. Let Jessup Insurance guide you into a better retirement. Call Jessup Insurance 435-213-3200 or Google Jessup Insurance.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
This is Detective Johnson from the Logan City Police Department. Scams in our community are on the rise and innocent victims are losing thousands of dollars. These scams are coming in the form of phony phone calls claiming to be from government organizations or legitimate businesses. They are also circulating on social media and emails. Almost all of these scams are asking for payment through gift cards that are almost impossible to track. No legitimate business or organization uses gift cards as currency. If you receive a scam of this nature, do not give the scammers any information and immediately call police. Remember, pause, stop, call a cop.
Kids just want to get out in the world and have fun. But their lives have been put on hold. Getting them thriving again safely starts with protecting them from COVID-19 and dangerous new variants. Get the latest facts by speaking to your pediatrician or healthcare provider, or by visiting getvaccineanswers.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Academy of Pediatrics.
145 over 92.
180 over 111.
182 over 100. And I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. And then a stroke.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life.
A lot of people don't understand, including myself, I didn't, now I do, the impact of having a stroke.
My memory is shot.
When I woke up, I couldn't speak.
Lowering your high blood pressure could save you from a heart attack or stroke. If you've stopped your treatment plan, restart it or talk to your doctor about creating one that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org.
It's a new life, but I'm going to make it better. I'm coming back. Ask your doctor, check your blood pressure.
Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. I love it when this happens. We did not plan the timing of this, but everyone's schedules led to, and again, I love this kind of thing, a little bit of serendipity where we have back-to-back guests in the second hour of the show today that perfectly fit with kind of a theme, if you will. We just wrapped up our interview with Dr. Susan Madsen of the Utah Women in Leadership Project. They have a white paper out commissioned by Zions Bank to help understand why Utah ranked in Wallet Hub's 2021 ranking as the worst place in the nation for women's equality. Zions Bank reached out and said, can you figure out why for us and make some recommendations? The Utah Women in Leadership Project at USU's John Huntsman School of Business did exactly that. Dr. Madsen recommended one of the things that could really help in these rankings, which do play a big part in business decisions, where to locate and things like that, is if Utah elected more women to both federal and state office. Joining us right now, a candidate for federal office. Again, unplanned, but it's just, I love it when this happens. We have United States Senate candidate running as a Republican here in Utah, Becky Edwards. And Becky, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. Dr. Madsen, without knowing it, provided a perfect setup for your campaign, talking about her white paper and their research there. But again, this was unplanned. I just had to highlight that because it gave me a chuckle. And appreciate you taking some time to join us. Becky Edwards joining us today because the Becky Edwards for United States Senate campaign is going to be in Logan tomorrow. Becky, tell us what brings you to town.
Thanks for having me. We're excited to be in Logan tomorrow. We've been in Logan a few times since I announced my candidacy at the end of May, and I love Cache Valley and all the good things that are happening there.
This is an early, traditionally at least, this is an early announcement, right?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think, we decided that we wanted to come out on the early side of just over a year before the primary in 2022 in June, so that we'd have a chance to really take our message across the state and talk to as many people as we can, every possible voter, especially in some of the communities that are off the Wasatch Front. Have a chance to talk to families and business leaders, community leaders, everyday Utahns, and find out the issues that matter the most to them. And that's why we're coming back again to Logan tomorrow, and looking forward to having more conversations there.
This is, a United States Senate run is no easy thing to do. It takes a lot of your time, of course. When we had you on the show before, you talked a bit about what prompted you to do this. And for listeners, you can see more of this story at BeckyForUtah.com, and that's spelled out, not the number 4, BeckyForUtah.com. But if you can, refresh listeners on how you made that decision in May to announce your Senate run. Oh, no.
My car, so we're kind of cutting out.
I'm sorry, we lost you there for a second.
Okay.
I think you're back. We might have to...
Utah. Can you hear me?
Sorry, we lost you again there, Becky. Sorry. Sorry,
okay.
You seem it sounds clear now. And again, my question was how did you make the decision to run for United States Senate? Not a small thing to do here in Utah, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it really came down to watching the political dialogue that we've had in the United States and even in Utah over the past few years, and thinking, wow, not only is it really distasteful and I think disenfranchising for people's voices, this kind of hyper politicization, it also is ending up being really ineffective. I think people in Utah, families and businesses, are really suffering because of it. And my vision is to bring a different type of leadership, a better leadership, where all voices are included at the table. We really work hard to find solutions that benefit people around the real challenges that they're facing. And I know that it's possible because when I served in the Utah House for 10 years, from 2009 to 2018, that's the type of leadership that I supported and I worked on and I led out on. And in fact, some of the issues that Susan Madsen was talking about, Dr. Madsen, in your previous segment, are a perfect segue to issues that I did lead out on. And so I'm excited to see the co-chairs on the Women in the Economy Commission, for example.
Sure. This is I was going to bring that up because I know your time for a decade there in the state legislature, Becky. I know you focused on something like this. One of the recommendations from the white paper from the Utah Women in Leadership project we were talking about there. It sounds like such a simple thing, but it said it would go a long ways to improving Utah's ranking in some of these Wallet Hub rankings for women's equality if we could improve math scores for young girls in the 8th grade. That's something you actually have a lot of experience with as a state lawmaker, right? How would that be done?
I think part of it is making sure that girls are at those tables, and as they register for classes, that they're encouraged to register for the higher level math classes, even in those early years of junior high, and that teachers support learning styles that are across the board reflective of the ways that people learn best, and that is for girls, it's for people with different, marginalized communities, people who might be new to different learning styles. There are just ways that we can better support girls in school. We can have teachers that really reflect the community that students come from. So this is people of color, this is women, male teachers as well. There are a lot of ways that we can support learning for girls and giving them opportunities to learn and see kind of a future that makes math in those earlier years relevant for a career going forward, whether that's a career in tech, whether that's a career in some STEM field or a social science field. Making education relevant, I think, really makes a big difference.
Becky, I know as a state lawmaker, you became a bit famous for something you called Bagels and Briefings, a Saturday event to connect with your constituents in your state legislative district at the time. Could something like that work? I know in a position like United States Senator, if elected, you would be representing an entire state, one of two senators. So you might not be able to invite everyone into your living room, but could something like Bagels for Briefings work in one of your goals, which is to raise the level of civility in our national dialogue?
Oh, I think absolutely. In fact, it's been kind of a fun thing during the campaign. We've kind of built on that, Bagels and Briefings. Like you say, during the legislative session for 10 years, every Saturday, we'd open up our front door. People would come in, we'd sit in the living room, we'd talk about issues, and I'd listen to people's stories and experiences and then act on what I learned. And it ended up really changing my perspective on a lot of issues because people had shared their challenges and their stories with me. And I think this is one reason why when Dr. Madsen is talking about the relevance of having women's voices at the table of decision making, it is another example of how important it is to have a full picture, the broad spectrum of stories of life experiences. And that's one thing that was really important to me when I was serving before. And I think there are ways to stay connected like that. We're building a really robust social media outreach across the state, and we're really fortunate to have technology that allows interaction and engagement across the state. Even when you're in a national position like a U.S. Senator, you can have consistent, intentional outreach that provides people an opportunity to stay connected, find out what's happening, and to realize an opportunity for them to make their voices heard and then act on it. I know it's possible, and I am committed to doing it because I know that I made better decisions and ran better legislation when I listened to the people I was elected to represent.
It's refreshing to hear. I know it's something that isn't just a Utah problem, but a nationwide problem when it comes to our federal representatives. So I hope something like Bagels and Briefings becomes more of the norm. BeckyForUtah.com is the website. Again, you can also find the Becky Edwards campaign on Facebook and Twitter, simply searching Becky for Utah. And again, that's spelled out F-O-R, Becky for Utah. And again, BeckyForUtah.com, the website. Becky, I know we promised not to take too much of your time today as you're making your way north, but you will be here in Cache Valley tomorrow. How can people get out and meet you, get to be a part of the campaign, learn more about your positions on various issues, etc. tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to be part of a panel tomorrow afternoon at the university, at Utah State University with the government relations panel.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to be talking about some of the issues that I think matter a lot to people across Cache Valley, factors that are driving political polarization, and what we can be doing as community members and elected officials to limit the spread of polarization in the state and our communities. And I think it's going to be a great panel, a great opportunity to hear. I think we'll be discussing this with Darren Perry, a former 2020 House of Representatives candidate and a professor of political science at Utah State, Michael Lyons. I think there will be a Q&A as part of that. So that's at 1:30 tomorrow at Utah State. And we have some other opportunities to meet together up there in Cache Valley tomorrow. And so if people want to outreach, meet with us, we'd love to do that. Reach out to the campaign, and you can email us at beckyforutah.com, and let's see if we can find a way to connect. Because, like I say, we're in this to really represent and work hard for the people of Utah. And I think that take place, better leadership always been to being a productive, proactive, and inclusive leader that represents all of Utah. And that's what I'm ready to do. So we look forward to being there tomorrow, and hope to get some good conversations up in Cache Valley.
Well, we appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. And for listeners, if you're not familiar with these USU Institute of Government, and I just said it all wrong, USU Institute of Government Relations. And Becky, by the way, while you're up there, please give Neil Abercrombie a hard time and say KVNU told you to do it. He heads that all up. But they have had some fascinating... Oh, it's worth it. He's had some fascinating conversations up there regarding civility in politics, including last month the former Idaho State Senator who has started a whole foundation about increasing civility in our political and public policy dialogue. Becky Edwards will be a part of their panel tomorrow, as she said, at 1:30 there on campus. I've posted details to that, by the way, on our Facebook page. Connect with the Edwards campaign at beckyforutah.com. And Becky Edwards, again, thank you for your time today. For listeners, appreciate you tuning in as well. We'll be back tomorrow with the For the People movie show and more here on KVNU Logan.
Valley Figure Skating Club presents Winter Wonderland at the Eccles Ice Center this Friday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. Tickets are $5 at the door for general admission or $3 with a canned food donation for the Cache Food Pantry. The Winter Wonderland show features local skaters showcasing their amazing talents. The entire family will love the show. Come support the Cache Valley Figure Skaters and enjoy a great family night out this Friday at 7 p.m. at the Eccles Ice Center.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
Sometimes, when we catch a moment of wonder, it touches our hearts, especially during this, a season of light.
This holiday season, explore the wonder of life at Loveland Living Planet Aquarium's Festival of the Seas. Discover a world of magic with seasonal treats, spectacular scenes, and a seaside Santa at Loveland Living Planet Aquarium. Make your reservation today at thelivingplanet.com.
Need some ideas for holiday shopping this year? Pick up a free copy of the Best of Northern Utah magazine. You'll find nearly 200 categories of the businesses voted the best in Northern Utah. Everything from sporting goods to jewelry, boutique shops, and restaurants. Best of all, these are local businesses that pay local taxes and employ local residents, your family members and neighbors. So let's help each other out and shop local this holiday season. For magazine locations, go to bestofnorthernutah.com.
At Winco, we do everything to save you money with low prices and top quality products throughout the store. Big savings on fresh meat, produce, seafood, and deli. And even bigger savings in our huge bulk item section. At Winco, there's never a membership fee to shop top quality products at low prices.
Now open in Logan at 1341 North Main Street.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Friday on This Morning, America's First News, how the Omicron variant could widen the economic divide between red and blue states. We'll examine data about pandemic restrictions. Also, mortgage rates may be low, but the high prices of homes are what's keeping first-time buyers on the sidelines. We'll have a market update. And wedding guests awkwardly uninvited thanks to COVID. Friday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
News Talk KVNU, Logan, the voice of Northern Utah, 610 AM and 102.